Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am Ratwan Hill, and that is Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, how you doing today, man?
I am well, thank you. Back from a jaunt to Buffalo, New York, but I'm well.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Glad to have you back. It's been quite an eventful weekend, I would say.
What? Do tell, Mr. Hill. Do tell, Mr. Hill. What happened this weekend?
Well, I mean, if for anybody who's sleeping under a rock, the biggest headlines is what's happened in Venezuela. We went over there and got the president and his wife. They had him in a Nike tech suit on the plane.
Shout out to the U.S. military.
Absolutely.
My servicemen and women. Shout out. Precision strike. That's the way we do it. Big ups.
No casualties. No casualties.
No casualties. I mean, you really got to pay homage to the U.S. military on that, right? Okay, it's one thing for them to go and extract hostages, right? But to go and extract a sitting leader who know you coming,
yeah,
right. You'd have told him you coming, right? I mean, that's precision. I'm making light of it, but that's because we have one of the finest fighting forces in the world, and they demonstrated their precision there this past weekend. And so again, my hat's off to my fraternity members that are still in BDUs and boots.
Absolutely, yeah. I saw a report today where he was talking about the other countries that were drug heavy, like Colombia, and
when you say he, I just want to make sure I know who you're talking about.
The president of the United? Yes, sir. Yeah, the president of the United States stated that Colombia could be next in there because of their drug trafficking, heavy in drug trafficking as well. My question is, what type of opportunities come out of this now that we've essentially going to take over the oil reserves? What type of opportunities would that present? I know we talked about AI data centers before, and how much energy consumption that takes, and how that could potentially be a resource.
Well, can I ask you something? Because you said we're going to take over their oil reserves. I've been following the mainstream media and following my most aggressive conspiracy theories, but I haven't seen the memo that says we're going to take over the oil reserves. Is that something that's pending?
The Venezuelan, I guess, take control of from what I've seen on the headlines, was take control of the Venezuelan oil deposits. Now, I don't know and what I also seen that they said that organizations like Chevron are already positioned for those. So what I'm thinking is, what type of opportunities could come out of that potentially?
Well, what I would say is when you're trying to plan your opportunities based on the current news cycle, you're in too deep. You're in too deep, right? You got to strategize based on something a little bit more involved than that. And what I would point to, just like we pointed back to Agenda 2025, when the shock and awe of the executive orders came out, I would point back to the release date of this administration's national defense strategy, right? Which was, I think, somewhere December 12th or something like that. And, within that strategy, there was some suggestions. There was some overture that this kind of an action was pending. And as you mentioned a moment ago, there is some suggestion that there are other drug-involved nations like Colombia that, could be on the chopping block next. And so when you ask me the question, what kind of opportunities come out of this kind of action, it's not that action that I look to for the opportunities. It's the strategy, right? That's where the government telegraphs what it's going to do, right? The president's management agenda when they come into office, right? It gives you a good idea of where the spending is going to shift. And in this particular situation and instance, again, the president's national defense strategy, which was just issued on December 12th, I think it was. It spelled out, it telegraphed this action, and it's telegraphing other actions that are going to be of importance and consideration if you're in the business of bullets and bombs and protection, right? Those of you who are in the business of national defense, right, you're looking at things like what the Secretary of War said when he talked about reforming the acquisition process on the DoD side of the equation, right? Because he's sitting on a budget rocket of $8.4 billion that he's got to distribute as they go through this reindustrialization effort, right, to reshore manufacturing. So the Secretary of Defense is looking to pick winner and loser states where the government becomes a part of the capital stack for a manufacturing outcome. They become a part of the capital stack for a reindustrialization effort. So if you're asking the question, where's the opportunity in Venezuela? I say don't look, right, to the mainstream media, right? Don't look to the symptom. Look to the root cause. Mm-hmm. Don't look for the symptom. Look for the root cause.
Interesting. Okay, so with that in mind, looking at the root cause and entering into 2026, what is the best way a veteran could position itself? Because oftentimes we talk about, the market opportunity, but a lot of time our veterans, service disabled veterans, we're not in these industries, and that's something that we normally don't understand. Like a lot of times we go into logistics in regards to transportation component of it. How do we make sense of the defense strategy in the National Defense Authorization Act? Or how do we find that opportunity in that? Is that the lane we already in and looking to get our foot in the door some way, somehow? What's the way for us to maximize on these strategies and implementations?
Well, the way for you to maximize the strategies is to make the strategies of no matter. And what I mean by that is if you equip yourself with the agility necessary to dynamically engineer exactly what your customer needs at the point of need, you as a disabled veteran in a season where you are the least risk awardee, you are the safe harbor, you put yourself in a position to write your own ticket. Right? Let's look at a scenario for a minute, right? This 8A audit thing, right? You got a bunch of 8A contractors that are going to be suspended, that are going to be disbarred after the 15th of January because of shenanigans in the 8A program. And those contracts that are going to be novated, they're going to be adjusted. Those are not going to be small business contracts. So the agency is going to have to come up with a pretty strong justification and authorization to get around you, Mr. Service Disabled Veteran, if you are a bigger small business and you're standing in the gap. And the reason is because the FAR Council has said to the agencies, you can remove these contracts that you're disrupting out of the 8A program, but you've got to put them in one of the existing socioeconomic programs. And the highest and best use right now, service disabled veteran. It's the one that's not been disturbed. And so if you're a bigger service disabled veteran owned small business that has the ability to dynamically engineer exactly what your customer needs at the point of need, mon frere, can I get a ride?
You're known for popularizing joint ventures. You moved the contract the needle for service disabled veterans from 750 million to 19 billion to 150 billion in some communities. And we see some companies use joint venture, but why isn't more popularized? Like why isn't this something more widely known in the industry?
Because it's a business model that was relegated to a niche, and that niche traditionally served the wealthy. That's what a lot of people don't understand about these kinds of strategic alliances, right? You know, the trust, right? The multinational trusts that utilize joint ventures, right, to circumvent multinational rules and regulations. These are secrets that the wealthy have been using for decades, right? I stumbled across it during my edification or education in accounting when I just happened upon a seminar where a guy was talking about estate planning, right? You know, and so they talked about these strategies that the wealthy used, and joint venture just kept being a part of it, right? And so when I came to the federal contracting space and ran into the hard problem that most small businesses, new entrants experience, I've got a preference, but I got no past performance. I got no capability capacity. I had to solve that hard problem. And it was because of my exposure to joint venturing during my academic experience that I saw that as relevant, right? That's how we got joint ventures, folks, right? That's how joint ventures got popularized in the federal space. The little bald guy said, why not? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? And so you get me excited there, Ratwan Hill. You got to stop that, man. What are we talking about?
Yeah, we were talking about why joint venturing wasn't popularized, and then you were breaking it down to how we got to the UIR point.
You know, it was not popularized because of ignorance. That's all. People just didn't know about it, right? And once we opened the door and pointed the community to it, right, people's risk tolerance changed. Because initially it was like, nobody's going to do a contract with a small business joint venture, right? Well, today they're doing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of contracts with small business joint ventures, leveraging affiliation exemption. So for those of you that are out there in the federal space, especially if you're a disabled veteran and you've been hovering around the federal space for the past decade or so and ain't making no money, and you're not utilizing joint venture, this is the time for you to get out of the mustard so you can catch up, right? Get in front of this suspension, this debarment wave that is occurring on the 8A side of the equation with a strong joint venture. And I would tell you that if your joint venture happened to have the cotton method stamped on it, contracting officers look at that a little differently than joint ventures that were just pulled out of the seat of somebody's pants, because that's a joint venture that's been vetted, right? That's a joint venture that has been approved by the SBA. It's been approved by law firms like Holland and Knight, so they know that they're getting the razor's edge when they're utilizing that kind of model. That's right. Shameless plug, shameless plug. If you're going to be agile in this environment, you need to be agile with the kind of solutions, the kind of strategies your customer is comfortable with. And the Cotton Methods joint venturing strategy, shameful plug, is one you need to be taking a look at.
No, for real. Yeah, because we're doing some big things for sure.
That part right there.
Yes, we're in a new quarter. We're in a new fiscal quarter right now. What should they be doing in Q2 right now? Like what should the veteran service disabled veteran owned businesses do, and what typically usually happens during the Q1 Q2? I know like most contracts.
Well, we can't talk about typical, right? Because nothing's typical about the season that we're in right now. We have this consolidation order that is causing the creation of mandatory contract vehicles and, consolidation under category management. And we don't know what that means to the acquisition landscape moving forward, right? Are you going to have access to a soup contract in order to get a task order for business with the federal government? We don't know what the landscape is looking like, right? So right now, the smart money is making itself agile in the face of where the major money movement is. And the major money movement is in this 8A program, right? They're $8.9 billion, or no, it's $9 billion in the 8A program that's going under an audit scrutiny that it hasn't ever gone under before. So if 10, 15, 20, 30, 40% of that gets disrupted, right? What's 10% of $9 billion? That's $900 million worth of transactions that have to be awarded over to someone, in addition to the $700 billion that the federal government has to award during this calendar year. So again, if you're smelling what I'm cooking, right, the smart money is learning how to be agile, how to dynamically engineer the bigger small business solution that the market is looking for today. And if you need some guidance and direction on how to do that, we've been doing it for decades, right? We got a class coming up in February. You're welcome to register for it.
We talked about before contracts being squeezed to lowest price technically accepted. For the small businesses that are essentially chasing the crumbs, I often hear the term contract rich. So organizations are only as rich as their last contract. Could you tell me, in this season, where is lowest price technically accepted, is it, like you said, being able to be agile and going after essentially a bigger contract to where that percentage could make sense, or the percentage wouldn't really make sense no matter what size?
You're asking a very good strategic question that contractors have to consider today that they didn't have to consider back in the day when I first bumped into contracting. I mean, back in the day, you could find a $25,000 hammer, right? Yeah. Being purchased in the Department of Defense, right? You guys may remember, the senators on the floor, who bought this hammer for $25,000, right? That kind of outrage over that level of fraud, waste, and abuse led to a series of efficiency-centric strategies in the acquisition space, starting with federal strategic sourcing, and then, category management. The government, because of the congressional outrage, was trying to find ways to bring cost efficiency to the way the government buys things. And, what they did was adopt this terminology, lowest cost technically acceptable, right? Prior to that, the government bought the best value, and that way you could get a hammer for $25,000. But under a lowest cost technically acceptable model, the government was able to purchase that item, product, or commodity that met the need. Didn't have to be the best. Well, the outgrowth of that was margins in the federal space got pushed down to a level that you really have to have economies of scale in order to manage. So that was another way that they got small businesses out of the game, right? By pushing the margin down to the place where you had to have such a big contract, in order for you to have the possibility of making a reasonable return on the time and hour investment. And in the event that there was even a minor hiccup on one of those contracts, it's upside down. Now you're paying the government to keep your good name intact or keep the IRS off your butt because you signed a contract that you didn't have the right review of. You didn't have the right analysis of, right? But at the end of the day, what small businesses need to recognize is there is no future for a small business. There is no future in America for a small business. The Internet of Things, right? The enterprise without walls, the strategic alliance, the ability to collaborate in ways that yesterday were not imagined, has taken the strength, it's taken the dominance of the multinational corporation, and it's emasculated it. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not thinking about the operating environment of tomorrow, today, and you're not building to it, you're in trouble. You're a problem. And so if you're not putting yourself in a position where you're working to become a bigger small business today, and our people have been doing that for the better part of the past 5 years, that's why we can bring a solution into Huntsville, Alabama. Boy, I want to tell you about this. It's a service disabled veteran tip of the spear that is scalable because it's got $1 billion worth of past performance. Let me say that again, jump back, want to kiss myself. A bigger service disabled veteran owned small business that's going into Huntsville, Alabama under the $150 billion NDAA Shield contract. Ratwan asked a little bit earlier, what should veterans be doing right now in this season? You should be implementing a strategy like the one that I just described, right? How do you learn about doing something like that? Well, I would go and take a look at that class that Mr. Cotton talked to you guys about, because it's one of the few areas that will provide you the guidance that you need so that you can get out of the mustard and catch up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And when you said that, what the first thing popped up in my mind is, well, we probably could learn contracting from all the free resources that we have. And then what I thought of is when I went through the Apex Accelerator, my counselor, he told me, he said, you need to choose either you're going to be a prime contractor or you're going to focus on subcontracting or you're going to focus on the micro markets. He said that those are the three options. He said you have to choose one of those options, and that's the lane you have to run down. I say all that to say there's a better way. There's definitely a better way to do it, and because it takes the same amount of energy. That what
it does, and you know, this is no affront to our friends at the Apex or our friends that are at the small business development centers or SCORE, right? You know, those organizations are doing the best with what they have been given, right? And one of the things that they have never been given is they've never been given the charge to innovate. They've never been given the responsibility to find a better way to help you make money, right? That's why people like myself who come from the enterprise perch at this, right? We create viable alternatives to the free solutions that get you nowhere, right? And we're the ones that are driving the needle. So my hat's off to our friends at the SCORE and those places. But I believe that we've reached an intersection where many of those programs have outlived their youthful life, right? And quite candidly, I am advocating these days that we need to stop this incremental movement with the Small Business Administration. Technology has changed in such a way that the way we do business has been forever changed. And so just like we did back in 1997, when we reauthorized the SBA for a new business environment, for a new set of policies and strategies, I think we're in a season right now where we need to contemplate whether it's time for us to reauthorize the SBA again, right? Whether it's time for us to look at how AI has changed the landscape in terms of size standards of businesses, right? Maybe we can adjust that to fit the new normal, right? Maybe we can look at some of these communication dynamics that are allowed because of the communication infrastructure, like mobile communication and the 5G capability to give you, gigabit download everywhere. Maybe it's time for us to stop trying to incrementally adjust an agency that needs a wholesale reinvention to fit the needs of the global economy as well as the information economy that's in front of us.
When you say reauthorize the SBA, what do you mean exactly? Is that like auditing the SBA itself, or?
No, that means to break open the Small Business Act, which is the guiding principle of the SBA, which is the place where the 8A program resides, which is the place where the preferences for the small business categories reside, which is where the loan programs, the loan guarantee programs, right, for our small businesses reside, which is where the language for the support programs and the funding for subsidiaries or support systems like SCORE reside, right? All of that stuff resides in the SBA, right? And if the agency hasn't innovated itself to keep pace with the needs of the economy, right, that's where Congress, right, that second branch of government, is responsible for providing the strategic guidance to the agency to keep it in alignment with the needs of this great nation. But right now, we see the Congress is completely distracted because it's not even, adhering to its responsibility under the power of the purse, right? And it's letting this administration run amok without any checks and balances. So the SBA as an agency right now is floundering with, these DEI issues and, how they're going to effectively manage the disbursement under the big, beautiful bill, right? When you have a MWBE community that's also being distracted by, right, all of the political winds that are blowing. And so as opposed to, again, trying to piecemeal this for, one interest group or, one political community or one ethnic or gender community, right? I think that it's just time for us to take a new sheet of paper out and reimagine the Small Business Administration in such a way that it supports the needs of Tomorrowland. It supports the needs of what we want America to be tomorrow.
And is that something we the people could we bring to Congress together as an action item?
You're throwing a primer out there, so I'm going to grab that, right? Because we've got these three branches of government that are not functioning well right now, right? We have an executive branch that is being controlled by a aggressive businessman that is employing some, non-traditional political business strategies against that office, and his actions are running afoul of that second branch of government, which is the Congress, right? Who's supposed to have the responsibility of checks and balances. And then that third branch of government, our judiciary, just seems to be a rubber stamp for the administration. And so right now we have a three-party system of government that's not functioning well because one of the systems, one of the legs, the one that's responsible for the power of the purse, for checks and balances, is not checking and balancing. And so what I'm going to advocate, what I think needs to happen, right, which is the beauty of this constitutional republic that we live in, I think it's time for the fourth branch of government to have its voice heard, right? The fourth branch of government. I hear ears perking up all over the country. What is the fourth branch of the government? The fourth branch of government is we the people, who have been endowed with inalienable rights. Isn't that what the preamble says? Mm-hmm. So we the people now have a need to step into the gap where Congress is not delivering the checks and balances that we need, right? And hold this administration accountable for the actions that put this country in harm's way, whether it be economically in harm's way or militarily in harm's way. But if the Congress can't grow a pair to do its job, then the fourth branch of government, we the people, will be stood up to deliver that job. And I'm going to actually take my VSO, the Elite Service Disabled Veteran Network, and I'm going to throw it in the organizing a pool. I'm going to make it responsible for organizing a we the people movement of my fraternity. We're talking about veteran business owners. We're talking about the veteran business block. So those of you who want to support this we the people movement that will help us cause this administration, this Congress, this judiciary to start acting right, join us. Become a member of the Elite Service Disabled Veteran Network today.
Absolutely. Indeed. I have one more question before we go. Florida or New York?
Oh man, I just spent my holiday in Buffalo, New York, and of all things that happened, we got a snow-a-cane.
Oh man.
It was like, you got 70-mile-an-hour winds with snow blowing and stuff like that, So
palm trees looking good. Palm trees looking good right about it.
Palm trees are looking fabulous. And man, there are a lot of reasons why Florida and specifically St. Petersburg as an anchor are starting to look good. But we can walk and chew bubble gum too. So in the event that we have to, do more than one, technology will support our ability to do that. But right now, New York is not my friend. Weather-wise.
All right, New York. Well, you got the call to action. You hear, Mr. Cotton. Hey, it's time for y'all to. I mean, we know. Well, I'm not gonna say nothing about the weather because that might go into a little bit of conspiracy. But you know what? I'm gonna end it here. I'm Ratwan Hill, and that is Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time, guys, we are out.